How are the Badgers going to stop Cam Ward, and what can we expect to see differently from week 1 to week 2 with this Badgers team?
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to another episode of Locked On Badgers. Today's episode brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Really do appreciate everybody tuning in. Huge game coming up here. We're going to bring Justin on. Justin Jolka, as everybody knows, Connor Siege and Truther. Chimre DK kind of non-truther. Although, listen, Justin, did you see that DK got 60 snaps, 15 to 20 more than any other receiver in week 1? How are we feeling about that?
I didn't say my prediction was based off of how many snaps he gets.
Okay. But don't you think receiver 1 gets the most snaps?
The guy who ends up being the most productive and the guy you go to when you have to have a play, that's your receiver 1.
Would that be the guy we threw a touchdown pass to? I'm just giving you a hard time.
That could be Skylar Bell if he wouldn't catch the football.
It is fair. Yeah. All right, let's get into Washington State. I want to start here. Keys, because I think the quarterback battle from both Mordecai and Cam Ward is going to be huge in this game. How are the Badgers stopping Cam Ward? How are they going to approach this, do you think?
If it was me, I would probably keep everything in front of me and make him nickel and dime it down the field and have to earn it that way and not let it try to reduce them to not having any explosive plays. I don't know if that's how we're going to do it. I think you have to try and maintain a pass rush that just doesn't give him the edges. He's a run threat. He's not a guy who's a huge run threat, but he will take it if it's there. So it's one of those things where you don't want to get too crazy with it. You and I talked kind of offline about the idea of him possibly putting a spy on him, which I think is potentially something you could do with Cheney. It'll be interesting to see how we choose to go about this. But I think there's some ways to slow him down. I don't think you're going to get him to a zero sum. I do think he's going to be a little bit better than last year. How that plays out on the scoreboard, I don't know.
Yeah, I think Cheney makes sense. That's a good take on using a spy. Cam Ward, and in my notes, I wrote, this needs to be a game of great discipline, right? You need to have a pass rush, not pass recklessness, because the interesting thing with Cam, that when you go and watch him, even from last year, he moves really well, but to your point, he doesn't want to tuck and run. He wants to move to create time to hit big scramble plays, right? Where you get the defense in that weird spot where does the corner have to step up to stop the quarterback, or does he stay with the running receiver? That's what Cam wants to do. He wants to scramble to create throws. So you have to have pass rush, but this is a game where if you're reckless and you create gaps in the pass rush, you rush upfield, Cam Ward is going to dice you up. So I think they need to contain him in the pocket. I don't think he's a great pocket passer, right? He wants to move and make plays. You contain him, put a spy on him, collapse the pocket around him, and I think that's he'll turn the ball over. He had 3 fumbles week 1, did interceptions last year, but you cannot let him scramble around and make the big scramble plays.
Their offensive line isn't great. They had 3 sacks from a bad Colorado State team last week. So, and what was it, 10 tackles for loss? So
the tackles for loss number.
Yeah, it was pretty high. So they can be gotten to. It'll be interesting to see how this week plays out. I do think they have to continue to be quick with the football. I do think Wisconsin has some pass rush. We can argue whether it's good or not, or what level it is, but there's enough there that if he wants to sit in the pocket and try hitting deep balls, I think he's going to be in trouble. I don't think he's going to be able to get away with sitting back there all day to throw it up. And I do think the corners are good enough in that regard for the most part. Now, the defense is probably the one area I expect the biggest growth from week 1 to week 2. I think there's so much that the guys are going to have on film that they're going to be able to kind of shore some things up. So I do expect this to be a lot tougher to kind of find holes, at least the chunk plays, than there was in week 1.
Yeah, and Washington State, for those still kind of learning, they brought in 3 transfer receivers. They have a really good group of receivers. They got 4. They got a returning guy who caught 11 passes in week 1. So they're going to put pressure on the corners, but I kind of think our corners can hold up a little bit. Holman had a really good week 1. I like Maitre, Smith, Nazir Forkin played, I thought, pretty well once he got his feet under him. It is interesting, though, when you said you would like to see the defense make him earn it. It feels more like a Jim Leonard defense that you're referencing and not a Tressel defense.
Yeah, I mean, in this regard, I think that was a good format. We saw how much they struggled to move the football and do anything last year against us using that format against them. There are teams that it's a good idea to do that against, and there are teams that it doesn't make sense. Like being ultra aggressive with a team like this, where a mistake is probably a touchdown, I don't know if that's necessarily how you want to play it. So I'm okay with being a little less aggressive. I think what Wisconsin ideally is going to do is put some pressure on them with our offense. If Mordecai comes out and is a lot crisper this week, that could be a world of difference. If Wisconsin can actually start getting some chunk plays in the passing game and keeps that running game open, because that's what I think Washington State's going to try and do.
Well, we're going to talk offense in a second. I want to stay on the Washington State offense here. The next one I wanted to ping you on was the Badgers' rush defense, tackling. Nakia Watson didn't do much week one for Washington State, but they didn't really need him either. So I'm curious if they're going to try to run, or if they're just going to say, Cam Ward, we're at home. We have a good group of receivers. Just fling it out everywhere and let's see what happens. Yeah. I'm very interested in that because I didn't think the Badgers' rush defense looked great against Buffalo in week one.
Yeah, no, I didn't love it either. There's some things that we definitely need to clean up on that side. The linebackers, the middle linebackers weren't great. The little bit that you and I watched, they seemed like they were sitting on their heels a little bit too much, waiting for the ball to come to them rather than being aggressive and attacking when they saw the play happen. That needs to be rectified. And that might just be guys who are a little paralysis through analysis with a new defense and sitting a little too much and not being second nature quite yet. But if they can shore that up, this is a team that shouldn't burn you on the ground. Like if they get to 4 yards of carry, like then you need to start worrying because that's probably more than they should average against a Wisconsin defense, given that they're not a team that likes to run the football. So the idea is to basically take that away and force them into passing the football and then just pin your ears if you can.
Really quick question on the quarterbacks for you. Week one, certainly Tanner Mordecai didn't have the game people had expected. 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Cameron Ward played really well against a very bad team. Like you and I have talked about this. Colorado State's not good. However, is that week one performance, do you think did it change your mind at all on the Tanner Mordecai versus Cameron Ward discussion? Or is that just overreaction based on week one?
I think it's a little overreaction based on week one. I mean, it's really hard. Like you and I talked about how without seeing the all 22 and knowing what was actually seen there. Now, one of the things I did think about when I was kind of thinking about that game, they kind of said that they were looking at the short game to see if they could get some things open in the run, to get some things to open up potentially ball in space. And I thought about that and I was like, there is some logic to that if they're trying to mess with the safeties a little bit. If you're throwing to the flat to try to get the safeties to start crashing heavy and get them out of position because you want to start hitting some things over the middle, it is possible that was their goal. Like if we keep feeding it short and we can make reasonable gains there, eventually they're going to try and take that away, and that's going to cost them somewhere else. So it is possible that was the logic that they were going for, is let's set it up. We can start hitting some big shots if they start getting too aggressive coming to the flats. So it's hard for me to say exactly what the exact game plan was without knowing, what was being seen downfield. Did we have guys running open? I will say this, seeing some of the highlights of what the guys look like when they actually were getting catches and how open they were, it was significant. It was pretty obvious that this offense does help the quarterback a good bit in getting guys open. So I think I feel good about Mordecai. I think there's just so many moving parts and so many new people. It's hard to expect this to be perfect day one, because this is their first live bullets. Like this is the first time they're stepping into a game all together and with some real pressure on them.
Yeah, and they still put up 500 yards against. Listen, we've said this before. Buffalo is not a terrible team. They are a solid MAC
They're
team.
going to be a bowl team this year. I'll be shocked if they're not.
So to put up 500 yards on them in week one, I think that has gone understated. Probably partially because, I understated it, I think, in the reaction show as well. So, all right, coming up, we're going to talk about the Badgers offense. How do we think they're going to attack this Washington State defense? That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break for friends of the show. And a quick thank you to everybody who's tuning in. Our friends of the show today, Nutrafol. Listen, a lot of men think losing hair is inevitable. You can take control of your hair's future with Nutrafol's science-backed hair growth supplement for men. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement, clinically shown to improve your hair growth, visible thickness, visible scalp coverage. There's a reason I sometimes wear a hat. It's because it's getting the forest is thinning out. There's been some forestry work up there. It's thinning out a little bit. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements use physician formulated natural science-based ingredients. Drug-free patented technology provides consistent, reliable results without compromising other areas of your important health. Go to Nutrafol.com/men, take their hair health wellness quiz, and you can identify causes for your thinning hair. And Nutrafol will give you a personalized plan for better hair health through whole body wellness. It's vitamins and it's pills you're taking to help you feel better from the inside out to help keep your hair. Take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping. When you go to Nutrafol.com/men, enter the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. Find out why over 4,000 healthcare professionals recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com/men, spelled Nutrafol.com/men. Enter promo code LOCKEDONCollege. That's Nutrafol.com/men, promo code LOCKEDONCollege. All right, let's get Justin back on, continue talking here about the big Washington State game coming up. Justin, we talked defense. I think the thing most people are most excited about, though, is to see maybe how this – again, it's hard to say the offense face planted. They put up 500 yards. We had 38 points, but it was disjointed is the word I would use. How are they going to attack this Washington State defense?
Well, one of the takeaways I think people need to have is we put up 500 yards and 38 points when the offense isn't clicking. So that should tell you how explosive this could potentially be once things are actually, clicking on all cylinders. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how Washington State chooses to come after us. Last year, they just were downhill. They came after us. We had opportunities in the passing game that we just did not take advantage of. If you remember last year, there were a few throws where we had guys running wide open down the field that Mertz overthrew. And it was like he didn't have a terrible day overall, but the plays that were there for big, shock plays, so to speak, he didn't hit on.
I choose not to remember last year.
That was the crusher, because those are such momentum swings. And that's one of the things that having big plays like this in an offense like this, the underlying benefit of it is, like, people can talk about a team that drives 17 plays and scores a touchdown, how it's demoralizing. So is going down the field to get a go-ahead touchdown and having the other team score in 30 or 45 seconds. Like, when you get a lead and you had a really productive drive and the other team just wipes it out like it's nothing, that's crushing. So this is an offense that I think if they choose to come downhill and come after a run game, I think we're going to have a big day passing. I think things will open up downfield, and I think that that's going to be a big difference. Now, if they choose not to, we are going to have a field day on the ground. I think they're pretty strong in the middle, but I do believe in our offensive line. I think that, like I said, the biggest takeaway we had, I think that is last year's offensive line really struggled with the extra guys in the box. And I think that was a big underlying theme as to why our run game struggled last year.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a ground and pound game. It's going to look – they're going to force – I think they're going to force Washington State. I think the plan is going to – so whereas week one, I feel like week one felt a little bit – I said disjointed as a word, but maybe exploratory is a better word. Like, let's try a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Phil Longo's kind of moving pieces around. I think there's going to be a dedicated effort in this game. We're going to run the ball until you put safeties in the box, period.
Yeah, we're going to make improvement. I'm going to be interested to see if they do that right away. Like,
I don't know if they'll do it right away. But
do you think they'll get hurt? Do you think they'll get hurt before they decide to do it?
It's going to happen, right? I don't know if they'll be right away, but they're going to have to put safeties in the box because their defensive line is good, but it's geared towards Pac-12 offenses. Yeah. There's two really good pass rushers, a 240-pound end and a 260-pound end, Stone and Jackson. They're really good, but they're pass rushers. Their inside tackles are 290 and 300 pounds, and they play a 4-2-5. Like, they're going to have to move guys in the box. And when
the linebackers are pedestrian too. So.
Yeah, and when that happens, Longo is going to counterpunch. That's what this whole offense is about. And Washington State's going to have to adapt to the running game because they're not going to be able to stop it. So I see a much more concerted effort. I see Longo going run until Washington State says, okay, we're moving in the box. And then it's going to be over the top. And on it, Skylar Bell will catch the ball when it happens. That's what I see happening.
Yeah, I mean, the way I kind of look at this is, what people really need to take a strong look at. I rewatched that game, this week, and you did too. the running game was really good.
Yeah.
Like you watch it and it's like, God, every time, like we'd have some short rushes for like 3 yards or 2 yards here, but there were some serious like 10-yard chunk plays that were just consistently in there. We haven't seen that in a few years. So it's so different in terms of being able to see just how easily this offense allows them to be able to move the ball. The running game could low-key be incredible this year. And I know we've talked about that in the past. But if a team does not choose to put bodies in the box, they are going to feast. Because if you put 7 against this offensive line, they are going to abuse teams, and they're going to end up being one of the best offensive lines in the country, is what I think is going to end up happening. People are going to look at it and they're going to be like, Wisconsin's averaging like 280 yards a game rushing. It's like, yeah, they are, because nobody is getting enough people in the box to do anything, or it's going to flip the script and Mordecai's going to feast.
And that's the beauty of it, right? That's what we've talked about. And you see it in action. People are like, wow, that looks like the old offense. Yeah, it does statistically, but it looks much better.
On the field, it's night and day when you look at the box. Like, it's so much more room out there.
Yeah, I agree. And the other hidden thing when you go back and watch, and listen, Hayden Rucci being a really good blocker should surprise nobody, but he blocked really well week 1. And then Tucker Ashcraft can hold up. So you can spread out a team and still have 7 really strong blockers on the field where it just puts an opposing defense. I think the Washington State defense is going to be in a lot of trouble this week. I just don't see how they're going to be able to hold up against the run without committing extra bodies. And then listen, here's the one thing I'd say though. If that's the case, Mordecai has to be able to hurt them, and he has to be better. He can't make those bad decisions, those interceptions, the late throw, the missed read. Like, he has to play really well on the road when Washington State commits to stopping the run.
I'll agree with that. Perhaps him being away from Camp Randall will be positive too, because you're not trying so hard for the home fans to kind of go out there and win the Heisman and your first week.
That ship has sailed. Yeah.
Well, watch it. He ends up going for like 15 touchdowns in the next 4 weeks, and then you're like, maybe not.
He's like 15 touchdowns, 2 picks. It was all week 1 against Buffalo. It is interesting, right? He's had 2 games. I mean, 1 game, but 1 game and 1 practice in front of people in Madison, and he's thrown 6 picks. Listen, it's ridiculous. It's not going to stay that way, but
no,
it is kind of nuts.
He's also like, there's people talking about how he's had like 2 picks all of fall camp. So,
and I think he's going to be fine. This is a spot 2 on the road. That Washington State Stadium, the Palouse, it's going to be as electric as that place can be. But he's a 6-year guy. This is one of the reasons you go out and get a veteran. He's been on the road before in big games. Like, it's fine.
Wisconsin's
intimidated.
Yeah, and Wisconsin's going to have the underdog mentality in this one because they lost last year. So they're going to come in. They're going to want to prove a point. This is going to be one of those games where I expect them to come out and be like, yeah, we lost last year and we shouldn't have to this team, and now we need to prove that we're the better team.
What's the biggest thing you're looking at changing that you think is going to change from week 1 to week 2? It's something that maybe we haven't talked about yet.
I think the passing game is going to be a lot crisper. I really do. I think they're going to be more on it. There's going to be less pressure to force things on this, and it'll just be kind of like let it rip. And I think that I'll have a good week. I don't know what that means. It might be 270 yards and 2 touchdowns. We'll see. Who knows? Maybe he'll go nuts. He could have a couple of plays if they catch. I mean, I think these receivers can get open. And I think you still, agree with me there that these guys can get open. We realistically had 2 passes that could have almost counted for 100 yards in that last game.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with that. I think the passing game is going to be crisper. I think tackling is going to be better. Quite frankly, that's
it can't be worse.
I was going to say a very low bar, right? If it's worse, we're not going to get any stops at all. But week 1 to week 2, it feels like you don't, obviously in modern football, it's not just the Badgers. You don't do a ton of tackling in practice. I think it's going to get better. It has to get cleaned up.
And Wisconsin has historically, at least over the last decade, been a pretty good tackling team. So I don't expect them to be bad. And even Latu, like, he is a guy who throws some big hits, but hasn't been a terrible wrap-up guy. Like, he had a couple of weeks here and there where he tries to blow somebody up and it doesn't pay off. It was in this game. Yeah, I was going to say, it was in a game against this team last year. So the coaches are going to be like, game film from last year showing him being like, see that? That remind you of week 1? Let's use the arms. Yes, let's wrap them up.
Please wrap up. All right, we're going to come back with our predictions plus 3 players we're really keyed in to watch. Your comments, including Listen, there's a couple pretty optimistic Badger fans out there, Justin, who I don't know if they. This is not an easy game, guys. I'll just say that. We're going to come back with game predictions. But first, a word from our friends of the show over at Game Time. I've talked a lot about Game Time. Game Time is the remedy to all of those people who stress out about finding the best tickets, the best places to watch a game, the best value for your tickets to the theater, to comedy clubs, to whatever it is. Game Time is America's fastest growing ticket app for a reason. They've simplified the process. They've made it easier. Flash sales, the best prices, plus their guarantee. Game Time will give you 110% back of your ticket price if you find the same ticket, same row somewhere else for cheaper. So Game Time's got your back. There's nothing to lose. All right. They give you flash deals, the best sporting events, the best entertainment events. You don't have to plan in advance. And if you know me, I don't plan in advance for anything, right? So Game Time is there for me, people like me, other sports fans, and you get images of your seats before you buy. So you know exactly what it looks like and what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in the matter of seconds, just 2 taps, clickety click, and you're set. And then the tickets are sent directly to your phone. And there's a great offer here. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's bring Justin back on here. We didn't get a prediction from Rajiv. He's still jet setting around the world, unlike us commoners. But let's throw some of these fan predictions up here, and then you and I are going to get into them. I also asked for people, the 3 players you're most interested in watching this week. This is from T Badger, 4131 Badgers. He's got Cheney, Hunter, and Bryson. That's a good group. I mean, those are all 3 interesting players here. Justin, pick one of those guys out that T Badger highlighted that you're most interested in.
Hunter's the big one for me. The receivers are going to be all season long. It's going to be really difficult to choose who's going to be the guy. Like, I feel like any one of them can go off for a game and have a big one. But Pauling is probably going to be the most consistent at that one just because of what his role is. Mm-hmm. I think Cheney could have a really good game here too. But Hunter's the guy who I think is kind of the linchpin of this defense. It's basically built for him to be just a stud.
Yeah, on pace for 130 tackles, roughly.
It wouldn't shock me if he hits 100.
I was gonna say he's gonna get to 100 if he doesn't get hurt. I'm pretty certain of that. Cheney's the one for me. I'll probably highlight here just because of the Turner suspension in the first half. Cheney's gonna play obviously all of the first half. And I think I do like your pick that he could be a guy who could spy on Ward. He's athletic enough and instinctive enough to do it. So I think he's an interesting one. Chris over on the Discord has Badgers 42-38. He's also got Cheney, and then he's got Latu and Pauling. Latu and Pauling we just talked about. Cheney we talked about. Chris, that's an optimistic pick there. This one is, let's see, from Ryan E. He's got Wisconsin 42-20. He said they stopped Cam Ward just like they did last year. He was 17-28 for 200 yards, touchdown, 2 picks. He's a decent player. He's not Caleb Williams. He said they're going to attack Wazoo however they want. Biggest change from week 1 to week 2 is going to be tackling. And his 3 key players are Rico Holman, Bryson Green, and some Vaco bombs. Vaco could be good on the road here. I just want to point out, I want to go back, and Ryan and I have disagreed with this on the Discord. You're not giving Cam Ward enough credit, in my opinion. I know he is not Caleb Williams. That is correct. He's not going to be one in the draft. He's a really good college quarterback, though, in my opinion.
I just want to, looking at his score, he brings up Vacos as one of his players, and yet he picks him to kick 6 extra points. So I don't is that what he's looking for out of him? That's a great game. He came through on the gimmies.
Yeah. We'll take that.
Yeah, I would love to see him but Ward is a good player. Now, I would say 42 for Wisconsin is everything going right. Like, there's turnovers involved in a game like that. We need to keep in mind there's a home crowd associated with this is going to play a factor. So Wisconsin, I would be shocked if we absolutely blow them out. Now, we could have a good game and still not get close to 40. In fact, I'll tell you mine coming up soon here, but yeah, I don't expect us to get to that point. So, but I do expect us to win.
That's a couple teasers there. We got JB over on the Discord, Wisconsin 31, Washington State 21. If we don't stop Cam, we're in for a bad season. See, I don't think so. Like I made the point earlier, and Justin, you may disagree with me. I would love to, I'm going to throw this to you, but if you lose a game, losing an early season out of conference game in your coach's first year with kind of a weak Big Ten West schedule, that's the one to lose. It's not great, I grant you, but I think this team gets better and better as the season goes on because of how new everything is. So, like, you could drop this game and at the end of the year be 10-2, and I'd be like, oh, okay, that's not too bad.
I'm not putting him on a pedestal, but there's a chance that Ward is the best quarterback we face this year. Based off that week 1 Ohio State, those guys were not impressive. Mm-hmm. So they need to step it up quite a bit. But he's not a pushover. Like, you have to do some good things on defense to keep him under control. And I do think Wisconsin is far more able to do that than Colorado State was. And I do think the defense is going to be far more able to impose their will. And what that means is anyone's guess at this point. But I expect us to put up a much better fight than what Colorado State did.
I'm going to bang through a couple of these predictions quick here. 24 Marine has Badgers 41-24. Sky Birdman, Badgers 35-31, kind of a nail biter. The first Badgers fan in this prediction area has a kind of a close game. SGK has 38-28 Badgers, 10-point win. Sorensen 31-21 Badgers, 10-point win. Big Cheese 34-28 Badgers. Here's the first one that's going to go against the grain. This is from Pete Grau. He posted a screen pic of him taking Wazoo money line. He said, "This is how I feel." So he is Wazoo winning this one, which is it's not unreasonable. And then one more here. Anderson Carlson says 24-20 Washington with the upset. Badgers get knocked out of the top 25. Tanner throws 2 picks. Allen does get 2 touchdowns and then 2 field goals. Justin, I'm going to pause there. We have a few more comments, including 73-70 or 73-7 White Marlin going with the Badgers big in this one.
When did we start facing a directional school?
Yeah, even a directional school. We're not hanging 73 right now. Justin, let's do our predictions.
Yeah.
What is your game prediction? And before you do, it's the current line right now is Wisconsin -6, and the over/under is 58. So give me the prediction, and then from there we'll see if you were covering the over/under as well.
Sure. Mine's 31-20 Wisconsin. I think they get a late field goal to push it to double digits. But yeah, I feel like this is going to be a fairly close game for most of it. I think Wisconsin will just be a little crisper. I just think we're more balanced. Like, Wisconsin's going to have an easier time moving the ball down the field because Washington State's going to have to sell out to stop something. And I think Wisconsin can just basically be like, if we stop your passing game, you're done.
So 31-20, you have Wisconsin covering, and you have the under popping. I hate this pick right now. Because I've said, listen, Wisconsin's not going to go undefeated, so you have to find a loss or two. I still think we probably lose to Ohio State. I know they didn't look great week 1. I think there's another loss on the schedule. Is it Iowa? Is it Illinois? Is it Purdue? Is it Washington State? I think Washington State's as likely as any of those. I think it's early. It's a road game. I have Washington State winning, and
how dare you?
I don't feel great about it. I don't feel great. Like, there's a part of me that thinks Wisconsin's going to run all over them. And because of that, they're going to win in a 10-point game, like you said. But I have Washington State winning a very close one. I have this score going higher. I think both offenses are going to kind of have their way a little bit. So I'm going to go 34-31.
Okay.
Washington State winning, unfortunately. But I'm here to be wrong. Listen, I am here to be wrong. Okay, and I should probably take my Believe with Rajiv shirt off.
How dare you?
This thing. If Rajiv was here, he would find a way to mute me somehow, even though he doesn't have that power. I don't know. Like, they're going to lose games this year, right?
Yeah.
So you got to find those losses somewhere. And to my earlier point, this wouldn't be a disastrous loss. I don't think even nationally people would look at it and say, "Well, that's a terrible loss."
I don't think so. Not after their week 1.
Mm-hmm.
So it just would. People would just say that this kind of solidifies the fact that that was not a fluke. My 3 players, looking at this, it's going to be Wooler for me again. I think my other 2 are going to be Pauling, and I'm going to say I think that we're going to see a Braelon's going to have a big week. I think he's going to go for 150 yards in this game.
That dude's going to feast. I agree. I didn't pick Braelon, but I think he's going to have a monster game. My 3, I'm going Vakos because I think field goal kicking on the road is a big deal. So I went Vakos. I went Muma.
6 extra points.
Listen, there's going to be a point in this game where it's going to be like from 42 yards in a close game that the Wazoo crowd's going to be going nuts because the Big Ten broke up their conference, and Vakos is going to have to step up and hit some big kicks. Kenny, we don't know, right?
I wish it was like soccer where he could go ahead and hit the kick and go running around down the sidelines and then slide on his knees and stuff like
I would love
that.
that.
That'd be amazing.
On both sides. I would love
Yeah.
it if
Yeah.
people get more fun in sports, and older generations of fans going to get salty about it.
Yeah.
I'm also going Muma because, listen, if you're going to be the star of the defense, and you have to have a better game than week one. Like, one solo tackle is not going to cut it for Muma, not meta. And then I have Bryson Green because I feel like this is a game where you need your stud physical receiver to go up and win a 50-50 ball, to break a tackle, to make a big play. So I want those three. I'm going to throw a couple more comments in here quick. This is from SF. Prior to the season, he was thinking 38-3 Badgers. Now he's at 24-17. That week one shook him, Justin. He's got a 24-17 slobber knocker.
Yeah, I don't know why people would get so, like thrown by week one. Like, what was your expectations? We didn't have a preseason like the NFL. We didn't have 3 games of just, exhibition play to kind of get timing and stuff down against a team that's not us. So I think it's a little unreasonable for people to think that this is some, that the offense is just not what we thought it was going to be. Like, it was never going to be perfect day one. We still dropped 38 points, and it wasn't turnover related. So it's like, what is the expectations? We dropped 50 in week one?
Probably. I mean, they didn't cover, right? I think
we weren't that far off covering.
BW says Wisconsin 41, Washington State 17. I had to bleep out. This is a family-friendly show. Gonna pound the S out of the second best school in the Pac-12, Pac-2, the second best school in the Pac-2. That's a great comment. Whiskey Pablo says, I was extremely nervous initially. The closer this gets to game day, the more confident I'm growing.
Oh wow, same score as me.
Yeah, that's a good one. I could absolutely see this, by the way. I'm not I'm hoping I'm dead wrong on this, but I do have them winning. Last one here, we'll finish up here. Volky over on the Jan Volk over on the Discord says Badgers will run the ball more than expected. Score will be lower, but they win 20-24. Could see that as well. All right, Justin, this is a big one. Obviously, we're going to have we're going to go live tomorrow as well before the show. If anybody wants to dial in, call in, put their thoughts in, and we'll definitely go live after the game as always. Therapy session. Hopefully, it's a good therapy session where everyone can poke fun at me and make fun of my bad take.
Maybe we'll drop 40 and people can finally get off of the team's back about their scoring.
I'm here for it. I'm here to be wrong on this one, gentlemen. I really am. Anyway, on Wisconsin, and we'll talk later.